was hard,
Not as much
wasn't
a problem as mine. Kept
That was
falling
hard work, that one.
down. These Rhodes microphone. I don't know. What are we going to do with you, Clinton? Hey, Matty, are you ready? We're into episode number 10.
Let's roll, Clouds.
You ready to go?
Here
Okay,
we go.
listen, here's the thing, Matty. Have you ever worked with a buyer's agent in your career of real estate?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yep.
And have you found them working them good?
Really good. Yeah, very professional. Most of the buyers agents I've dealt with have been really good.
Yeah.
Our guest here today's been exceptional. Had
Yeah.
a lot of dealings with Byron Rose over the years.
Yeah.
Found that his clients are always highly organised when they come along and have a look at the properties.
Perfect.
Which is a testimony to the way that these guys deal with their clients.
Yeah. So why don't we give a formal welcome and introduction to Byron Rose, buyer's agent here based in Sydney. But Byron, welcome
Thank you very much for
to the
inviting
Mentors.
Yeah.
Just come in and talk a little bit closer so our listeners can hear you.
Thank you.
So
Thanks,
Byron,
guys.
tell us a little bit about your business, how long you've been in being a buyer's agent and your background.
Okay. So Rose and Jones was established by Rachel, my wife, 20 years ago.
Wow.
And the two of us set it up 20 years and been in operation all that time. We've now expanded to a good portion. Say we've got 14 people in the office here in Sydney, and we've extended our services now into Victoria and Queensland.
Wow, 20 years. I actually remember when you originally first opened. So 20 years ago, Matt, I was at Ilja Hooker Bondi Junction.
Oh, there you
I
go.
just got out of nappies. And I got into real estate a couple of years beforehand. And I was thinking, buyer's agents, what do they actually do? So how can this be relevant today, Byron? Let's talk about the marketplace at the moment, mate. What do you? Let's talk with you, mate. What are you seeing in the market? You're in the trenches with your guys in your marketplace at the moment. What's happening out there right now?
Absolutely. Look, I think if any agent that's worth their salt that's doing their absolute best for their clients, it has to use every opportunity to get maximum buyer exposure for all their listings. So the first place to go, you would think, would be buyers agents obviously always working with people that are qualified.
Yep.
So in a marketplace where there's a lot of noise at the moment around, it's coming back a bit, the clearance rates have dropped under, 70%.
Correct.
Well, buyers are becoming like gold again, so they're not in plentiful supply. So people that have rapport and trust with them are, obviously the agents that are doing their job would have a good buyer's database, but the buyer's agents would obviously, have a loyal clientele. So keeping a buyer's agent, working clearly with a buyer's agent is an absolutely important thing. We've noticed, Clouds, in the last sort of 3 months, the market's dipped a bit.
Yeah.
The clearance rates, obviously some clients are still feeling, they want to hold out for their price, but they just don't have the amount of competition on every single listing.
Yeah.
So having a buyer's agent come along and that's already got rapport, that's been working and educating a buyer as to where the market is, whether it's going up, but those buyers are usually highly qualified. So adding them into the mix for the clients a really important part of the equation.
Yeah, because I'm talking to agents across Australia, Byron, and numbers of buyers coming through open homes are a lot less than they were, like you said, Matty, 3 months ago. So how can an agent use you and you bring value to them?
Matty just hit on something really important, and as I was saying before, Rachel and I have been in this business now, or industry, for 20 years, and the importance of relationships is vital now. As the market takes a dip,
So true.
the relationships that we have puts us in the forefront for our clients to get exposure to real estate that otherwise a lot of the general public will not get access to.
Yeah.
And as we were talking about before, the off-market market is becoming a bigger marketplace.
Yes.
And so therefore those relationships are going to be vital going through this next phase. And all our clients typically want to get access to 100% of the market, and to do so, the buyer's agent needs to have those relationships in place. If you don't, you're not doing a service for your client.
So, Byron, is it fair to say a lot of your clients may be high profile and they don't want to walk through an open home and necessarily be exposed to bidding at an auction? And
look, over the years,
does that happen?
Yeah, it has happened. I don't believe that is now primarily the opportunity.
That shifted?
That has shifted. That's primarily used to be the angle for a buyer's agent, not so more anymore. And going forward, as I said before, the relationships are going to be vital in this marketplace. And if you don't nurture those relationships with the selling agents, you're not going to get access.
I guess too, a lot of your clients come to you because of lack of time.
Correct.
You can go and just look at everything and then shortlist. That's really what your role is, isn't it?
Yeah. So taking the brief, getting out into the market, shortlisting, and then shortlisting that down to maybe 2 or 3 properties that we'll go and chase. And that, as I said before, to getting access to the total market, not just 1 or 2.
Yep.
So what would a typical agent do, Byron, to start a relationship with, say, someone in your business, in your company, being a buyer's agent? What would a typical real estate agent do to start to reach out to you and sort of say, hey, I want to work with you more closely.
Yeah.
Build a strategic alliance with you. What would be the process?
Let me flip it around the other way. What I actually tell my guys to do, which would be no different to the selling agent's angle as well, and that is, you can't be liked or have a relationship with 100% of people. It's impossible. So when you go through your opens, what are the agents that are reflecting information that is important to you and your client? And from there, I believe, starts the beginning of a nice relationship. Those agents who communicate well with the buyer's agent, and therefore once the buyer's agent has that start of that relationship, I tell my guys, make sure you keep nurturing it. They are the ones who get access to the product that we want to purchase. So if you don't build that relationship with that person who specialises in that particular area, you're not going to get it.
Wow.
And therefore, you haven't done the service by your client, because the relationship is the important cog in the wheel.
Yeah, right.
Byron, is it? I'm intrigued because I remember when you started. I've known you for as long as that time, and Rachel, she's a champion. How's the role of the buyer's agent changed in the last 20 years? Has it changed?
Good question. When we first started, it felt like that Rachel and I were really just a concierge service. Yeah. So we're just giving access to real estate and going and inspecting properties and telling people this is what it's worth and blah, blah, blah. But now Rachel and I and the team, we've developed more significant processes in our due diligence, so that we know what we're doing, we know how to analyse the real estate, we know what the rates per square metre are for each type of property, whether it be a home, an apartment or a vacant block of land. So the skill set, in my view, has shifted in that the buyer's agent needs to understand how to assess value, not just print a document off RP data and say that is the price. I think you need to go the extra step and analyse that information, because the algorithms that are in there are so wide and varied, and we do work in a very small pocket of the Sydney market or a particular geography of various markets. You can't have such a wide-angled lens on property.
Right, and I've sort of noticed, I could be wrong, ancillary services around what you do have grown too from 20 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, obviously, similarly to what you guys do, we do offer the services of legal advice. We do the strata searches and the building and pest reports.
Finance.
We get, obviously, and that's a big angle for us as well in respect to relationships again. Those who specialise in the finance market, they've got a boatload of clients who are missing out on real estate.
Yep.
Now, what about Byron? If there's someone listening here, they might think, okay, do buyer agents just work in the metro areas, like in, say, the eastern suburbs of Sydney, Lower North Shore or wherever else? Like, say if there's a listener here today that could be, I don't know, just say out in Liverpool, out in the western parts of Sydney, is a buyer agent as relevant out there as, say, someone in, looking to buy in the eastern suburbs of Sydney? Like, do you have clients who are looking not just in those areas? Or?
Yeah. Look, there's certainly a higher turnover of clientele in the western suburbs. Not that we specialise in that area, but I know that there is certainly an opportunity for a buyer's agency role in those markets.
Right, yep.
So for anyone listening out there, there's an opportunity for that particular marketplace. Primarily, buyer's agencies were set up to service the core markets of each capital city of the states.
Yep.
And that, I liken it, go back 20 years ago, we were a baby in the industry.
Yep.
We were still in the cotton wriggling around. Now I don't think we're outside the toddler years and we're coming into the teenage years as an industry. And as more competition comes into the industry, I think that's a great thing, and it puts a stamp on that angle of the real estate market.
That service that needs to be provided.
Absolutely.
What about advocates? Is that the same? Is like I notice in Melbourne they call themselves advocates. Is that just
that's Melbourne?
That's just an upper class way of saying I'm a buyer's agent. So in Melbourne, it seems to be that it's a really popular service. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when Rachel and I started back all those years ago, Melbourne was already ahead of the Sydney market in respect to buyers agency. So I would have to say the last count of buyers agents or agencies in Sydney versus Melbourne, Sydney's now overtaken Melbourne.
Right.
Is that right?
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's huge. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But the role, advocacy, buyer's agent, identical.
It's identical.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And
No
what
changes.
about nationally, like Perth, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Canberra?
Yeah.
What's the spread off the top of your head there?
So as to numbers, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth.
Okay.
I think there's one or two buyers agents in the ACT and South Australia.
Okay.
So there's representation.
It is
throughout the country.
trickling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see it. Absolutely.
And it's going to grow. It will continue to grow. And I think as an industry that is significantly behind in years to the selling process, I think we're on a real steep learning curve and a growth curve for the next 15, 20 years.
Okay. So, Byron, looking at your service, so obviously we understand from the vendor's point of view, from the purchaser's point of view, they pick you, you look after everything for them, one-stop shop. How did to get into the agent's mindset and psyche, understanding that you're not competition to the actual agents in a sense that you can actually, I mean, I've worked with you for years, off and on, I've had clients that you've had purchases on, etc. I think it's painless to have buyers agents working with agents, but that's just my personal view. How do you feel you're received in the market, one? And two, what is the general feel that you get when you turn up to act on behalf of a purchaser?
Very, very good question. So go back 20 years ago again, and we were like vermin. Agents, your hardcore traditional selling agents didn't understand. They saw us as a threat.
Yes.
And as the years roll
It's
on,
my listing. Don't touch it.
exactly. But they thought we were going to chop them out of a deal, and it wasn't the case at all. We were there to facilitate a transaction. And going forward, roll forward another 15 years, with the industry growing the way it has, and the amount of buyers agents now involved in the property piece, listing agents now see the benefit of engaging with buyers agents.
Absolutely.
There is, and those that don't see it haven't grown enough. They don't understand the mechanisms that we bring into the transaction.
Yeah.
And those who have embraced it are seeing the rewards of engaging with buyers agents. I'm not to say that buyers agents are there, an easy free ride for selling agents to get deals done, and sometimes I've been accused of being too hard to deal with. But that's the process. And
But you represent the buyer.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
we represent the buyer.
Clouds, there's also, you having worked in real estate as well, same you and I for a long time together. But one thing, the myth that's out there, Byron, and I don't know if you feel the same, Clouds, was that a buyer's agent's always trying to get the house cheaper or the apartment cheaper. That's actually not your brief from the client, is it? And it's not what you promise them to do either, because market value is market value.
Correct.
But what about today? What about today, Byron? Where the market has
this is
changed?
where we want to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got sellers up here, and you got buyers who are thinking down here. A buyer comes to you and probably goes, "Hey, Byron, how can we get it like a dirt cheap?
How do we get the bargains now?"
So how do you work on that?
How do you manage your expectations?
Yeah.
First thing is, there is never a bargain in the prime markets of any city around the world.
I'd have to agree with you there.
There is no bargains, and if you do, you're done very, very well.
Yeah.
But they do not come across the desk every day. So how do you manage that with the clients? As I said, no bargains. We educate our clients through the process of the search. So once they've engaged with us, we go through the search and we're educating them with everything that we inspect. We're showing them the differences. And once we start to hone in on something, whether
Yes.
it be 1, 2, 3 or 4 properties that we have a significant interest in, we start, as I said, we bring RP data into the equation, but then we segment that information into a very simple spreadsheet. It's not rocket science. We're not putting man on the moon here. It's just a really simple calculation.
Just
And
comparables.
Comparables. And we break it down and making sure that they are comparable and not...
Do they initially expect when they come to see you that you're going to get it cheaper for them? Has that ever come up?
Oh, yeah. There's always been that expectation. But over I'd say the last 10 years, it's actually getting access to real estate.
Right,
It's
okay.
not
So you
about
come
trying...
on, professional.
And that's where
That is actually an expectation that we're going to negotiate a better outcome that they can do themselves anyway. So that's already off the table.
Right, which is probably true too,
Correct.
yeah?
And that's why the off-market opportunity really plays really well for these agents.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where you can bring the buyer and do an off-market.
And in
deal
the
for
absence of competition, a buyer's agent should be able to provide a level of comfort as well to their client. Because, when you inspect a property that is off-market, you're the only person on it. Fear creeps into their decision-making to say, okay, well, if it's off-market, I'm the only one. Maybe there's something wrong with it. And that's where a buyer's agent really should come to the fore and explain where the value of that property sits in the current climate.
Yep.
Yeah, and having a third party who's on their side.
One of the successful things that Claudio and Clinton have created with the mentors is this is just live as is. So there's we could ask you anything here, right?
Yeah.
So
We like to freestyle. As you can notice, Byron, we just freestyle.
I'm going to ask you a controversial one.
Yeah, go.
So you can't really back out now because you got the mic.
We're live on Facebook, aren't we, Jay?
This will help the industry, and that's what I'm all about too. Is like helping obviously our in team here as well as helping the whole industry. When I ask questions, tell me, do you see a big difference in the caliber of agents you deal with? Like you go in to negotiate. There must be, and I'm saying this because one of the big industry issues is agents trying to defend their fees and I see a huge difference. This is just my personally, but I'd rather hear from you. You must notice the difference between dealing with Agent X, Agent Y, and Agent Z around the ability for them to maximise the outcome. Can you give us a bit of a, because you've got an unfair advantage. What we don't is you know all the agents, so you get to see who's a good negotiator, who's not. How much difference to the vendor is a gun agent worth in the end result?
Oh, tremendous amount of value.
Right.
Tremendous.
You can
the
actually articulate it.
The 1 to 2.5% fees that agents charge, that's off the table in respect to a good agent. That the preservation of fees should not ever be a discussion. It's about how they're going to maximise the value for their client, and through their negotiations, that 2% it's nothing. It's just that's spare change at the end of the day, because they can maximise another 5 or 7% in the transaction.
That's awesome.
Really good.
So what I was trying to get to, sorry to jump back in there, but what I was trying to get to was, if you're a top agent and you know you're a top negotiator, you should hold your fee. Because you've seen the difference between...
Because you're dealing with agents every day.
all the time. Can you give us some...
And they're giving you an offer and you're going, oh my God, I had another 50 grand up my sleeve I could have put in. And this guy's accepted the offer where basically...
That's where I was going.
Man, this guy's a good negotiator. Like, that's what Matt's saying, is you can see different types of agents.
To go back to what you were saying before, have I seen a change in the calibre of agents out there? And skill sets. And I would definitely say in the last 5 years I've seen... with the growth of selling agents into the market, because the market drew a lot of people into the industry.
Yes.
The calibre, in my view, has waned somewhat, but I think going forward you'll see those with very good negotiation skills and general skill sets will remain in the industry, and they'll stay there and throughout the transaction.
And you know who they are, right? Because you're dealing with them.
One of our colleagues in Rose and Jones, we've sat down and gone through the agents that we deal with on a regular basis, and we categorise them.
Is that on?
No.
Do we need to ask on what?
How do we get that list?
Do we need to ask on what rating you're rating them on?
Yeah, like Apple iTunes, 4.5. We've got 5-star reviews, by the way.
The rating that we apply is based on their skills and the type of person they are in the process.
Really?
So
okay.
we can be armed on how we're going to transact with that agent.
Right.
Yep.
So are they Are they non-commutative? Are they aggressive? Are they, we know from history, an agent, no names, but, won't communicate with you for 48 hours and then all of a sudden it ramps up on you. So we understand the mindsets of a lot of our agents that we deal with, so that it helps us how to navigate the pathway to get a successful outcome for our client.
That's awesome. Would you be able to share with the listeners what you'd find the best agents, what their best skills are when you're trying to... Could you share that?
Number one, communication.
Right.
If you do not communicate, no one knows where they stand.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it?
It's just, that's fundamental, number one. Number two, are you allowed to swear or no swear?
Yeah.
Clinton, get your hand on the red button.
Edit.
Depends on what level, Byron.
Go, Byron.
It's a family show.
Mums and dads out there, cover the ears. No, don't bullshit.
Yeah.
Just don't bullshit. Just put it all on the table. When you put everything on the table, the deals get done.
Totally.
We're not there to. We're not there to
just tell the friggin' truth.
Tell the truth. Communicate.
Simple.
We're not there to muck around and buggerise around a transaction. We're actually there to facilitate an outcome for our client, and so is the selling agent.
So communication, follow up, straight talking, straight shooting.
Yep.
What about product knowledge? Do you find there's a difference in agents? Some agents know all about the product, the other sales in the area, and they know about their properties better than other agents. There
is certainly a handful of agents who are really, really, really good at product knowledge, and they know not just their own transactions, but all their competitors' transactions in the market. And that helps build a case study when they're trying to transact on the product that they've got at the market at that time.
See, Clouds, I'd be saying this is great to have Byron here to talk about this, because he's an independent health check on the industry.
Yes.
But where I was going with, if we're coaching agents, and I know you've got a huge coaching database, but we'd be saying to them, like, taking what Byron's saying as gold, is we've spoken to a buyer's agent, it's all about communication. Because if you're selling yourself to the owner, if you had an endorsement from a buyer's agent as to, look, I tick these boxes.
Correct.
That's why you have to hire me.
Yeah.
And I'm worth the commission, because the buyer's agents can tell us there's a huge variance to somebody getting the maximum result.
But it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
It's a two-way street as well, because I know there are a number of buyer's agents and agencies out there that don't communicate very well.
Yep.
Totally.
So that frustrates the selling agent.
Two-way
They're
street.
probably not communicating to their vendor either, Byron.
Yeah.
Well, look, Byron, it's been an absolute honour for you to come in and join us here in the studio at HQ, The Mentors.
The Mentors.
And if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to find you?
roseandjones.com.au.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Got something great from this episode? It would mean the world to us if you passed it on. Tune in each week as we mentor a new agent. Have a question? Want to be on the show? Get in touch with Claudio Encina, Matt Lahood, or visit our Facebook page. The Mentors is brought to you by Sprinkler.media.